Hi, so I'd like to show you how to do a bug fix workflow in WannaGo, or a new feature development workflow. And the workflow involves both the Jira system for bugs especially, and GitHub in terms of pull requests. What we want to do is use branches for every work item that we start. So logically, we want a branch for everything that we do that's standard. It's a pretty standard workflow. So the first thing is let's find some work. I've gone ahead and found some work that is open for work, and this is on WannaGo Atlassian.net. So this is in Jira, and it's unassigned. So the first thing is I'm going to assign it to me. Now notice that the priority is low. I'm of the mindset is just find work that's easy to do, get it off the bug list, and just work away. So it's okay to do the easy stuff first. We want to get our bug count to 0, obviously. And if we just only work on the hard stuff, it's we're gonna make slow progress, and we're gonna have a large number of bugs that we keep on having to look at and consider. So getting rid of bugs quickly is probably the right approach here. Especially it also helps you get used to the source code. Anyway, so I'm going to assign this to me, and it's important that you do this first because the model is any developer who has access can start a bug and start to work on it. They can self-assign them. All right, so that just happened, and we may as well go ahead and do the start the progress here as well. You don't want to assign a bunch of bugs to yourself and then only work on one. So just assign one and go ahead and finish it, and then assign yourself the next, unless somebody asks you specifically if there's an emergency that needs work. And the beauty of doing branches is that you can have work going on in one branch and then switch over to another branch and continue, and start a new task there. And sometimes that's necessary, and that's part of the power of branches. So we're gonna go create a branch, and we'd like to name it something reasonable. In this case, we're gonna name it WAN77. That's the issue we're addressing with this bug, and we're gonna go ahead and create this branch. Okay, now this issue is a friend request user icon must not display for the logged in user. In fact, I would say we probably don't even want to show the logged in users line there. Finding yourself isn't really that compelling. So I would say let's just exclude yourself from finding others, because in the app when you log in, you just go to my Go list, and that's how you find yourself. All right, so let's take a look at that. So let's look at the bug first, which is a good way of doing this. This person is a test account that we've created, and so I'm going to say John Cowboy Wayne. Okay, there's one of them, and this is the person himself, John Cowboy Wayne. So if you go back here, it's John Cowboy Wayne. That's the account. So what we want to do is not bring that up at all, because we're not trying to find ourselves at all. All right. So we confirmed the bug. We can reproduce it, and that's an important part of the process. Great. So that's what we're going to fix. And so we've created a branch called WAN77, and it's all up to date. Another thing that's good to check at this point is before you even create that branch is if you go to GitHub and take a look at your fork of the client repo, you want to see this branch is even with WannaGo master. You want to make sure that's the case, because if you're behind master, you're looking at old code, and it's not terrible, but it's certainly not the best way of going about it, because you'll be out of date. Okay, So that's what's happening. So we're good to go. So now it's just the time to fix the bug. In this case, I looked into this. I wanted to try to get a easy bug so I wouldn't spend most of the time on this. So this is in the view model. What we're going to do is just check to see whether what's filling this list is the server is bringing back a bunch of data, and we want to make sure that we on the client side just filter out ourselves. So we could do this on the server side, but I'm going to make this as a client side fix because maybe later on we'll want to display it, or maybe we'll just want to remove the one icon, or maybe we just do want to show you but not add that. I mean, that's nothing. So let's just find out. Let's just figure out where to find this condition, and we can think about what we want to do there. So in refresh user 8, so this is the file that does this. This is in find user view model. And I mean, I don't want to go too much into the code, but the way we structure this with MVVM cross, this is that we've got this init task, and because we're using async code, there's this common core function called bootstrap, which will call methods get data async or get data and show data async, and that's just slightly more complicated than just doing everything in init, but this structure actually helps kind of delineate some of the core foundation of what we do. First, we typically get data, and then we end up showing data. So that's and in fact these kind of just make calls to other calls. So it's a little bit like an onion here. But bottom line is the show data async ends up just calling configure wait. End up calling refresh user async, and there we have that. Notice that initially we search for nothing. This happens right when we load the code, but refresh user async happens more than once in this file, and that happens here. This is with the search users command, which gets called back from the view. So this is really where the meat is of this is where the data really comes in. The other thing is searching on an empty string, which currently results in no results coming from the server. But anyway, so we get the find users async, and we're going to go ahead with a configure wait true on that, so we stay on the main thread, and we go looping through this. All right, and this item has a user object on it, and that has an ID on it. And what we want to do is there's a thing, data service is usually used everywhere. That's a very important component to know about. And get own, actually it's just own user ID. There's several ways. You could do this, is own user ID, or we can just grab the user ID. Doing it this way is actually a little bit more safe. So let me convert that and just call it, instead of comparing it by hand, the IDs, I'll just say, is this user our own user? And the reason why this is a little safer is if you look at this implementation, it'll probably check for nulls and things like that. So I can double check on that real quick. So in the data service layer, it gets its own user ID, it does some null checks and make sure there's values, and then in the end it goes ahead and sets that. So this does some conditions and error checking for us, so we don't crash out. Although even if we did crash out in this case, we have all this stuff protected with a try catch, so we shouldn't be crashing anyway. But why crash, right? So if it's the own user, so for now what we're gonna say is this. So here's the debate when we structure code. I like to not deeply nest my code and my logic. So generally what I would do is actually do something. If you're just going to skip it, and for this bug, I'm going to go ahead and do that. I like to say here, continue. And that way the logic reads more linearly. You know, other people would have put that into, you know, invert that, say if not in his own user, go ahead and do these two things. I like things more linear. So you'll see code, I often write code where I exit out early. In fact, when we looked at this implementation, let me just show that to you. Again, if you look at data service, the way I implemented that is see, I've got if statements that exit early, and then we do this. To me, this reads easier than if you would have inverted this and then added, you know, even with an ampersand or made two if statements. This is the style I like. I'm not saying, you know, you have to always follow that, but I like more linear logic. Okay. So having said that, let's go ahead and test this. So now if we ran it, we should exclude ourselves from the searching. So let's see. Find user. Okay, something's was in the way. John. What am I called? John Wayne, John Cowboy. There we go. So now we're no longer there. John Cowboy Wayne is no longer there. And let's just make sure it's with an H. I do think it's with an H. Yeah, John Cowboy Wayne. So that's working. You know, I might decide that what we really want to do is list ourselves, but not have an icon. But for now, I don't know. I mean, yeah, maybe that's right. Maybe we want to show ourselves. It's kind of, maybe somebody would be upset if they didn't see themselves. So that's a little bit more involved, because at that point, the icon state is either going to be, you know, hidden or not. So when we take a look at this follow subview model, we can take a look at, it just has a user and the follow state, and we can take a look at the follow in the view. This is for find users. Okay, let's see, this is where all the binding happening. Bind. All right, so we've got create binding set. Oh, this is for the table. The question is, where is the subview? Is there a subview? Okay, we should be able to see what we're constructing as items in here. Table, where's the source? VX simple, follow table view, follow cell view. Okay, let's see where that's defined. Follow cell view. Okay, that's in designer there, and that's follow cell view under profile friends. That's why I didn't see it right away, because it's not under find users page. It's actually being used elsewhere, which makes the question now so this is a component that's getting reused in different views. So the question is, does it make sense for me to tweak it? Will it affect those things adversely? But let's just look at it a little bit more. Okay, so yeah, this is what I was expecting to find. So the first view I was looking at was just the table itself, but these are the cells, and we're gonna have a bunch of images that are gonna be on top of each other that may or may not be hidden depending on what state they're at, and they're tied to not following request to follow or following. Um, you know, maybe the thing to do here would be to introduce enum into bool. That's of a converter that would figure out, I guess, whether this follow state is equals to not following, at which point the not following UI image view would get hidden. Yeah, I mean, let me for now put this in as just hide the implementation that I have currently. I would say that because this would end up having to be more complicated, because it seems to me we'd have an additional state here, and I'd have to decide whether it would be like a follow state dot hidden that we only set in this particular case, and then that hides everything. Or do we introduce a variable on the actual object that just talks about these things, and we don't do this, converter here, but instead there's an actual property on the item that says what to do. That way, the property, you can code the property to have more logic behind it. And one of the conditions would be whether or not this user ID is ourselves. I mean, that may be a good thing to do, but that's a larger change, and the whole point was to kind of not demo this particular code change and how I think about things, but rather getting the flow right. Okay, so we've tested it, and it works as intended in terms of John Cowboy Wayne. We don't see ourselves here, and the good news is on this list where these cells are getting reused, we're not going to see ourselves, John Cowboy Wayne, as follower or following, because we can't follow ourselves. That's kind of the point of the original bug anyway. So given that's simple, and simple is good, let's see where we're at. So I've made a code change, I've tested the code, and I've thought through different ways of addressing the problem. Okay, what I can do now is check it in. So seems good. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and now I'm on WAN77, that's the branch. I'm going to go ahead and commit this. And what I like to do is make it easier for the reviewer, which ends up being me, so it's self-serving. But also anybody that's going to look at this check-in, it'd be nice to kind of just cut and paste up to like the bug from here to there, and we can just kind of say, okay, just paste that there, and just say, fix bug, that, and then there you go. And just, there's a typo there, who cares? Go ahead and just commit that. Okay, now it's committed, and it lives on your computer. It hasn't gone anywhere yet. So the next thing we want to do is actually just push it up. And you should select when you're not going to push it to master, you're going to just push it to your branch. So go ahead and do that. Okay. All right. At this point, after having pushed it to your branch, you should see, if you refresh this, that that something happened here. You recently pushed branches. If you were to click on WAN77, it says this branch is one commit ahead. Okay, but we typically look at master even on our own stuff. So, and the master is even, which is also good to see. All right, so now we've pushed it, but WannaGo client doesn't know about it yet. And so what we want to do is actually create a pull request. One way of doing that, now you could just do that here, and that's fine. But I want to show you how to do that from inside of the tool of SourceTree. You create a pull request, and it's just going to bring us over. So it says submit via remote, which is fine. Local branch, remote branch, right? And just leave the defaults. They should work. Okay. And there's your pull request with the comments of what the subject was. And now here I might actually say, you know, opting to remove the I don't know, the user themselves from find, no reason to find yourself. Hopefully, hopefully you've already found yourself. All right. All right, so in here you can review this. All right, one thing is when you're checking in. Well, let me finish, and I'll comment more about that, the other thought later. So you create the pull request, and that's all you would see. You wouldn't see this next step. You would just be done with the pull request. One thing is in HipChat, you'll find that it went through. Okay, so look in HipChat under WannaGo, and here you'll see that I got an email that says, hey, there's a pull request. So either I'm online and I see this, or I get an email as well, so I know what you know what's going on. At this point, you are done. Okay, because it could be a day or two before I actually integrate your change and accept your pull request, or there could be a conversation back and forth about, hey, I don't like this change or that change, or did you consider removing the icon, etc. So at that point you would go ahead and start your next issue. Okay, so you go back to master and you know make sure your master is up to date by pulling and all of that. And then you would create another branch, and then you'd build up several branches. And then at some point, I'm gonna go ahead and finally review it and hopefully say it was good work and merge the pull request. So when I have comments, I'm gonna use this and comment. You should be notified about any comments that are happening. So I could say, okay, may need to revisit later. Maybe just removing the follow request icon might have been better, but okay. All right, so it's silly. I'm commenting on my own work. So that should, you should be able to see what's going on with these comments. So you need to check so I got an email. You would get that email too about this. So make sure you have email notifications turned on your GitHub account, and make sure you're following that email. Then me as the reviewer will look at your code changes, and I'll go ahead and merge them. Okay, and I'll confirm the merge, and I'm gonna go and delete the branch server side, and that'll be that. And that was all done on WannaGo client. So you still have your branch WannaGo 77. Okay. So at this point, you should have been notified with an email, and you should see in HipChat that this just happened. Okay, that it was accepted, it was closed here, and you'll also notice that our integrated continuous integration server is building a new build on the check-in. Okay, it's building 2055.j, and there we go. Okay, And so we're not done yet in terms of this on our side, because that stuff's still living in a branch 177. And you will find that if you were to go onto GitHub here, and refresh what's going on, you'll see that this branch is 2 commits behind WannaGo master. Okay, and so you actually want to catch up with master and then merge that back in. So what you should do is go to your master branch. Now you're switching, and you'll notice that you're at this level. You're not at commit 93. You're at commit 090. All right. So now you're going to go ahead and pull. And you want to pull from upstream. You don't want to pull from origin because you're already there, and you want to go pull from upstream master, and you can go ahead and do that. So now you're pulling what was accepted, okay, and now you've got your two changes there, okay, and I typically end up. I guess I don't need to merge here. But I am ahead. So now at this point, I should be able to push to master origin, and we should be caught up. Okay. So now everything is in line. You see that this little pattern where we did, there was a merge and then a fixed bug and then another merge. So there's always this branch and then a merge back. Okay. Now that's it. That's the end of the story. So if I refresh this should say we're even. Okay. So that's important. That last step of pulling from upstream and then pushing back to master. All right. And that's really all there's to it. So the last step is once you're done and the pull request has been accepted and you've gone ahead and pulled it and all that, you can go ahead and delete that. There's no need to hang on to this branch really. So I like to keep it clean. You're not deleting anything that you can't get back later. It keeps this thing kind of nice and tidy. So that's it. That's all there's to it. So again, to review the steps is you want to start off with a clean environment on master. You're going to create a branch. You're going to name that branch something reasonable. And at that point, you're going to be on that branch. Okay, you're not going to be on master anymore. Then you're going to go ahead and make your changes in the code. You're going to view it, and here's my statement about changes. Keep your changes to a minimum. Don't add too many things that aren't absolutely necessary. If you open up a zip file just to investigate, and Xcode decides to rewrite those files, make sure to go ahead and delete the change, revert the change. So this happens all the time, and I don't want to review zip file changes, but there can be accidental changes that I want to avoid because it's a graphical user tool, GUI driven. You might just accidentally do a mouse swipe, or some coordinate might change, or some little twiddly thing will get changed, and you might actually introduce a bug that way. So I don't want to just take your word for nothing changed. I was just looking at the file. Don't check in zip files. I will reject your pull request if you do. Except of course if you make a change, right? If you make a change in your zip file that you need, then obviously I'll take a look at that and make sure I accept that. All right. So then coming back to it, then the tail end of it. So you've checked it in, right? You've pushed it to your master, your remote origin master, and then you're gonna go here and create a pull request, not from master, but whatever branch you're on, right? Create pull request, and then it goes through that process. I ended up reviewing your code. If I accept it, all you need to do is go to your master. You're still gonna have your other branch. Go back to master. pull, you want to again pull from upstream and master. That's an important step. You pull, you may need to merge something. If you don't need to, you just go ahead and push. And when you push, you're going to push to origin master, and that should complete the process. Okay, that's it. And one more thing, when you're done with your bug and it's been checked in and all that, only then do you want to say you're done. Don't say you're done the minute you do a pull request, because it's still in progress at that point. It's only done after it's been approved, and you've merged it back into your base. So when you hit done here, what we do is the incremental builds that we do on a continuous integration. These are internal to developers. QA does not see them yet. We may change our policy at some point, but these builds point to dev, not staging, and we want to kind of bundle things up for a beta release where we fix a bunch of things at once and give that back to QA. So what happens is the dev releases are going to be always a letter release .j, and the next release that goes to staging will be one up from the last number. So it's going to be 2056 when we finally do the next release that a QA person will see. So what I like to do is say fix versions. So it's affected that, it's fixed here. And you might want to comment out and say, we decided to remove the entry that corresponds to the user themselves. No point in finding yourself. Okay. That was the easier thing to do. Done. And there we have it. Okay, so now it's fixed version 2056 and status is done. So that was the last thing I wanted to mention about the process.